Hello and welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, healer, tarot enthusiast, and professional witch, and today I'm talking about an autumn mixed tarot spread. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. If you love the show, the best way to support it for free is by listening daily, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. If you love the podcast and want to support it further, you can join the Everyday Tarot Patreon family. Some of the benefits include getting an individual card pulled for you once a month live on the podcast, or if you'd like to support the podcast even further, you can get a one-time individual 5-card reading in addition to all the other benefits if you join the Witch Bitch level on the Patreon. I recently recorded an hour-long video episode for the new moon that we welcomed in on October 21st, 2025. If you missed the live, you can check out the New Moon Collective Tarot reading replay. As a bonus for the Queer Joy Summit that wrapped up last week, I created a Queer Coven spooky tarot spread, and I wanted to give you all a chance to grab it even if you weren't part of the summit. So it is both Halloween and queer themed 6-card spread, and you can go ahead and grab it. I'll have the link in the show notes, and it will also be linked in my link tree and on my Instagram stories. I was recently on Kayla Moore's Connected Pleasure podcast, which you can check out my episode of her podcast, where we talked all about living by the body, dreaming of land, and weaving the future. I will also have the link to Kayla's offer page in the show notes at connectedpleasurecoaching.com. I am still looking for more guests to be on my podcast. I have some folks I've already recorded with, some that are on the schedule coming up, and then I still have I think 7 slots, maybe even 8 slots left. So if you're interested or know someone that might be a good fit, please fill out my form to be a guest on the podcast. If you want to work with me more directly, and maybe you don't live local to me, I am kicking off my Tarot for Transformation workshops starting in January 2026. We'll be deep diving the first 12 of the major arcana cards all together as we embody archetypes and learn how to transform ourselves through the tarot. And this will happen, we will do 1 card a month. I will hold a probably 2 to 3 hour workshop. You can attend live, or if you're unable to, you can watch the replay where we'll be kind of really deep diving into the cards. I'm going to dress up. We're going to talk about how to embody each of the archetypes of the major arcana as we go throughout the wheel of the year, which will be very fun. So the full details will be at the link in the show notes. If you don't already know, I am a sex and relationships therapist and coach, seeing individual and relational clients virtually all over from my home office. I love working with queer, poly, and witchy clients, so if you'd like to work with someone that doesn't judge you, is witchy just like you, and helps you learn how to deal with anxiety, chronic pain or illness, communication issues, self-advocacy, and sex, head to my website and book a free consultation now to start your journey. And you can check that out at CamilleASaunders.com. Maybe you've heard me talk about crafting your own tarot cards and you're like, Camille, I have no art skills. Well, no worries. You can learn how to create your own cards with collage. So you'll get a list of supplies, my preferred supplies, which are scissors, glue stick, and any sort of collage materials, magazines, advertisements, newspapers, old books that are falling apart, anything like that. You can get my full workshop, which will have an hour-long recording that shows my step-by-step method. I show examples of tarot cards I've made and kind of the variety and how you can go about making the cards. I give you some journal questions that'll help you brainstorm or figure out how you want to actually go about creating your deck or theme, or, are you going to pick a card, a major arcana card to go off of, or are you going to look for images first and then see what card it shows up as? And then if all else fails, I have a PDF to walk you all through it for just $33. So you can click the link in the show notes to grab that now. If you're interested in my free PDF that has the 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you, my lovely listeners, at the beginning of this year, you can get that by joining my newsletter list. My weekly newsletter always has the most up-to-date info on upcoming events, presentations, musings, and info and photos of my day-to-day life. If you're local and want to meet me in person, you can check out my Let's Talk Tarot meetup group for any upcoming events. The next ones that are upcoming are celebrating the full moon by doing full moon women's circles for the rest of 2025. So you can join my colleague Izzy and I under the glow of the full moon for an evening of connection, reflection, and ritual. We'll be meeting at Thresholds Collective in Tacoma the first Sunday of the month to welcome in the full moon together. So the next date is on November 2nd, so coming up this Sunday, and the final date of 2025 will be on December 7th. Tickets are already up and available for both of those events, so get those on your calendars now, get your tickets. We would love to see you there. We still have some space left in the event coming up this Sunday, so if you're available and interested, definitely sign up for that. And yeah, we still have some spots available, so yeah, we should be able to fit you in. You can find the links for any of these offers in the show notes or on my website, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot, in addition to the images of the cards I pull on each episode. All right, so welcome to season 17, where I'm talking all about autumn tarot spreads. So if you haven't listened to my other seasons yet, you can check those out. I've talked tarot basics, tarot and pop culture. I did a whole earlier season on tarot spreads, a lot of common ones, from small spreads, daily pulls, past, present, future, to the complex Celtic cross. So that has kind of classic tarot spreads. And then this season, right, is all about autumn tarot spreads. All right, and today we are talking about an autumn tarot spread that I'm calling an autumn mixed tarot spread. So I found this on Healing Thru Tarot.com through THRU, and they have a blog post about their favorite autumn decks, how they work with decks seasonally, and then an autumn spread. So that is where I got this one from. And what they actually do is they use 6 different decks to do this 6-card spread. So if you have 6 decks, feel free to mix and match like I'm going to do. But yeah, I thought that that would be fun because I have not really done that with the spread before, I don't think, where you use different decks to create the spread. So the spread itself is a 6-card spread. It's 1, 2, 3 across the top, 4, 5, 6 across the bottom. So 2 rows of 3. It's about the energy of the season, what's brewing, what's falling away, how can I prepare, how can I align myself, and message from beyond the veil. So very autumn, spooky, right? We are in Halloween week right now, so that is very fun. And they actually have a Healing Thru Tarot podcast, and they said that they talked about this in episode 9. So if you want to do it with me, and then go check out theirs, they're at Healing Thru Tarot on Instagram as well, again, THRU. Yeah, and they have a nice long blog post showing all of their decks, these autumn decks. I do not specifically have autumn decks. I tried to pick ones that felt appropriate for today, but I have 11 decks, which feels like a lot, but I certainly don't have 6 autumn themed decks. So this will be fun today. So yeah, go ahead, grab your deck or decks, and we'll get started. And again, this is from healingthrutarot.com, and I will have the list of all of the decks that I used in the show notes so that you can check those out. All right, so yeah, let's get into it. And I'm probably just going to go kind of like one at a time. So each prompt, I'll pick a deck. So the first prompt is card for the energy of the season. I'm going to pick from my Desert Illuminations Tarot deck by Lindsay D. Williams. This is a Southwest USA inspired art, people, and colors. Certainly, it's a very turquoise, orange, magenta deck. It has a lot of classic historical figures from that area and from kind of the historical, sort of like cowboy, I would say, like historical era, as well as native folks and people that lived there. Okay, so I did a lot of shuffling, so let's go ahead and pull. And this is the card for the energy of the season. Okay, interesting. I pulled the 5 of daggers in this deck, which would be the 5 of swords traditionally. So I'm already like, great, we're in conflict. And swords or daggers are air signs, so overthinking or challenge is kind of what I immediately think of here. It says, a fierce woman resides in the middle of the desert under a gloomy sky. Her dagger-throwing target is set up against a large saguaro cactus in the distance. Her dagger, oh yeah, she is back at the training process after losing many battles and even injuring herself in the process. At some point in our lives, we have all lost a battle that we have been fighting. Defeat can be an awful feeling that can leave you feeling resentful. Competition is normal and healthy in the right situations when it is balanced, but when it becomes overly competitive, it can leave you isolated, alone, and stuck in a toxic cycle. On a positive note, the 5 of daggers can also indicate that you are ready to move on from conflict and have already turned your situation around into something more positive. In apology, there is grace. In grace, there is growth and spiritual transformation. So again, this is our like vibe energy of the season. And yeah, I feel like it is that like liminal space of being in the 5s, which is like, you're training, right? Like you've lost a lot of things. You're kind of learning and recovering, healing through that process. Like this feels very, again, resonant to me. If you listened to my other episodes recently, feeling burned out. And that, right, in cards, maybe ace through 4, you recognized you were in the toxic pattern. 5, we're recognizing it. And now, right, again, we're kind of like moving on. We're moving on from the conflict. Maybe we've turned our situation around. We're slowing down as we enter this autumnal, darker season. And yeah, maybe we're turning our lessons that we've learned and perhaps injuries that are healing into growth and spiritual transformation. So not always like a fun thing to be the card for the energy of the season, but definitely feels very resonant to me right now. And again, that was the Desert Illuminations Tarot deck by Lindsay D. Williams. And I'm just grabbing my links for these so that I make sure I stay in order. Okay, so next card is what is brewing for me this season. Okay, what shall I choose? I'm gonna do the Citadel, a fantasy oracle by Fen Inkwright. So an oracle deck, not tarot, although it kind of does have suits in it still. It's a beautiful kind of like black and white, although it's actually like black and red line drawings. And then over top of that, we have this kind of like gold foil. It's a beautiful deck. And instead of being kind of traditional rectangular cards, it's as if the triangular cards got all of their corners cut off. So it actually makes it very easy to shuffle because you're just shuffling kind of the middle of the cards and they don't get caught on each other as much. All right. Although of course I say that and my shuffling is kind of hard right now. Okay, one more. I'm definitely like a 3 card or a 3 times shuffle minimum person. All right, let's see here. Okay, so cutting the deck for me. And again, this is the what is brewing for me this season. Interesting. I pulled the Spy Master. It says it's about knowledge and distrust. Okay. And this is... All right, so it says, nothing happens in the Citadel that escapes the Spy Master's notice. They must surely be one of the most powerful people in the court. And yet their office is a small affair, crowded with papers and bottles of stale drink. And knowing how fallible people truly are, how can they trust anyone else? Knowledge is both a stepping stone to power and a poison to optimism. And in seeking it so voraciously, the Spy Master has become trapped on a lonely patch. The pursuit of knowledge is a grand goal, but don't don't let it tarnish your opinion of the world. If you only pay attention to the negative, you can find every person's flaws, every piece of bad news, and every shadow, even on a sunny day. Instead, try to exercise some positivity and forgive those around you for their faults. A relationship or situation can be so much better if its flaws are acknowledged, but not focused on above all else. And on the card, it depicts a crow that's like perched on someone's hand. And then again, we see like a key. The person's hand has a ring on it. And again, it's sort of, I think, about knowledge, but then also the shadow side of distrust. So if we go back to remember what our prompt was, what is brewing for me this season? It seems like it's sort of this, like, again, this turning point, kind of like with the Five of Swords card, where we're at this point where, okay, again, maybe Ace through 4, we were looking at negatives, and now we're kind of like turning into, right, perhaps into some gratitude or forgiving people around us and perhaps ourselves for not being up to our high expectations, right? Again, like this can come very often and end up in burnout, where you have very high expectations for yourself and for others, and people are always disappointing you, and also that you're often disappointing yourself, and that's just a really hard space to stay in. So this card is telling us exercise positivity and forgive those around you for their faults, right? That relationships or situations can feel so much better if acknowledged, flaws, but also not focused on above all else, right? We understand that everyone is fallible, that we can't do it perfectly or even great all the time. And like, that's also true for ourselves. And so don't beat yourself up about that either. And don't focus on that when you're in relationship with others. Or if you do, just it's going to have challenges. So that is brewing right now. This is what this card and deck is telling us. And this again was the The Citadel, a Fantasy Oracle by Fen Inkrite. Okay. I'm having to stack all my decks because they're taking up so much space on my deck. On my desk. All right. On to the next prompt and the next deck. Let's go ahead. So the next prompt is what is falling away? I'm going to pull from the Sacerdote Tarot deck by Stasia Burrington. This was my first deck, so very familiar with it. Let's see what is here. What is falling away? Do you guys enjoy my shuffling ASMR? This deck is very supple, I would say. It's been shuffled many a time. All right, so again, what is falling away? Ooh, interesting. I pulled the Emperor in reverse. Again, we're in that, like, you got to give up the authoritarianism aspect. So let's see here. So traditionally, again, the Emperor, upright, archetype of male energy, authority figure, ruler ego. The king, boss, dom is what this deck says. Might represent a father figure or a position of power. Maintains his power with experience, organization, structure, and discipline. Stern, rigid, and commanding. A defender, he's respected, successful, high status. He functions within order, tradition, and establishment. He is strong, conservative, and inflexible. He has common sense and a strong desire to be in control and to rule over his surroundings. Beware with this one because the ego can get out of control. So again, I did pull it in reverse. So for this deck, it says the reversal is inconsistency, unpredictability, and childishness. But I would say, so if we think about what's falling away, right, perhaps it's the inconsistency, unpredictability, and childishness that is falling away. But I think also it could be this idea that like rigidity, and inflexibility and conservatism, common sense, desire to be in control, those are also falling away, right? The sort of more traditional upright definition of the Emperor cards. And again, for me in this like season of burnout that I'm experiencing and trying to be transparent about, is that oftentimes those of us who tend towards perfectionism, or again, kind of like that end up in burnout, we always desire to, oh, I just need to be more strict with myself. I just need to have more, right, schedule better. I just need to like do more. And right, this card's saying like, no, actually you need to be like soft and gentle with yourself, right? Sort of like, again, the opposite of how we think of the Emperor, which usually is also kind of like how we think of the Empress. So, right, the Empress upright would be mother figure, strong, protective, nurturing, love, pleasure. She's a giver, a creator, abundant in health, sensuality, material prosperity. She's caring and compassionate, symbolizes nature, physical attraction, and comfort, right? So kind of like leaning into comfort and literal nature, right? Even attraction or things that you're attracted to, art, like creation of ideas, and it's a card of opportunity. And so I think there's sort of this falling away of the archetype of male energy there, of authority, of ruler, of our own ego, which again, for me, I'm like, oh yeah, part of my own ego is being like, I don't have burnout. I can just keep going. I'm a good student. I can just do it forever. And it's like, no, no, you can't. And we're going to force you, right, to slow down in this way. So yeah, I think for me, that is what's falling away here is the desire, or that inner desire to just like be so in control and to rule over surroundings. And that actually the way that we fight that is by being gentle with ourselves, by taking things off of our calendar, by giving ourselves less demand, taking demanding things off and allowing to see what flows, what creation or creative energy comes through when we remove a lot of the demands that we have on ourselves and in our life. All right. So again, that was the Sacerdote Tarot deck by Stasia Barrington. All right. So 3 down, 3 to go. For the next prompt, we have, how can I prepare for that unburdening, right? So perhaps around this, what is falling away? So let's see here. Which deck, how can I prepare for the unburdening? I guess I'm going to just go in order with what I had prepared before. So I'm going to pull from the Norse Goddess Rune Oracle by Rebecca Joy Stark and artwork by Sharon McLeod. All right. Okay, I'm going to shuffle a couple times. How can I prepare for that unburdening? Well, I had a card fly out, so let's see what that's about. Okay, interesting. I pulled the number 29, Berkana Merkstoff, Ellie, the crone, stagnation, and lack of growth. Do tell. Okay, here, 29. Okay, so it says, I am Ellie, goddess and crone. I am old age, many years I have grown. You cannot escape me, yet wisdom you hold. May Berkana Merkstoff guide you as you grow old. So Ellie is a giantess who is the embodiment of old age. This is the lore. Ellie is a wise crone who defeats Por in a wrestling match in the hall of the giant Utgarda Loki. And Ellie is the goddess of elderly wisdom who none can wish to defeat in their lifetime. So in the sort of traditional lore, there's a wrestling match between the mighty god Por and the elderly woman Ellie, who is nurse to the giant Utgarda Loki. To prove his strength, Por agrees to wrestle the old lady stricken in years before all giants in the hall. So she has a sort of frail appearance, but Por is unable to defeat her, finding himself beat down to his knee. His feat was impressive, for none could fight off old age as he attempted to do. Yet her power was absolute. And in another card, there's Idun's apples of longevity. If you remember, if you've listened to other episodes where I've pulled that card, it's like golden apples that are this like a holy grail, like a sustain youth for long, like what's the right word? Like immortality. So they show the apples are actually in this image and they're on the table. And it says, here they lie withered on the table as the inevitability of old age can no longer be overcome. Ellie comes for us all. She is the crone, the personification of old age. She cannot be defeated, for even the goddesses and gods cannot live forever. And she no longer holds on to the vitality of her youth as her maiden years are spent. Again, she is that crone energy. She has the wisdom of many years lived, of experience as her crone years are upon her. And part of this makes her very fearless, wise, strong, and undefeated. So if we think about the divination meaning for this card, so Berkana Murkstad is the rune of stilted growth. It represents a period of stagnation, an inability or unwillingness to grow and move forwards. It may represent a blockage in your development, a struggle that is affecting your ability to heal and regenerate. Perhaps this is the end of a cycle for you. This reversed rune can hold within its power to acknowledge the growing journey you have been on and appreciate all you have accomplished. Explore ways to bring growth back into your life, to remove the stagnation and be reborn into the most authentic version of yourself. It says, pay particular attention to what this looks like for you and spend time overcoming any unwellness. Berkana brings in growth, fertility, birth, and rebirth. So the Merkstav, which is kind of like the reversal, is the end, excuse me, of the growth period, where we can call upon the wisdom that we have gained and use this to face and accept that which we cannot change. There's also the sort of like physical representation of like changes in menopause, or right, like literally ending your crone years of life. So step into the transition with courage, for the more you resist the changes, the more painful it may be. It can also signify potential issues with a mother figure in your life or your own role as a nurturer. Reflect on this relationship with yourself and others and adopt a caring viewpoint. Recognize your importance in this world. There is only one of you and you are precious. Be kind to yourself and view yourself and others as valuable humans who have much to offer this world. Acknowledge the power of the wise crone within. So again, how can we prepare for the unburdening that is, right, the falling away of rigidity, structure, authoritarianism, right? It is this, right, honoring the fact that like things are stagnant right now, that we're not, right, our inability or unwillingness to grow and move forwards right now. Right. And that is how we prepare for the unburdening, right? In order to kind of get to the other side, we have to sit in the space of inability or unwillingness to grow or move forwards, right? It's like we are stuck, we're in a blockage. But if we acknowledge, right, that we are in the stuck place right now, right, maybe the stuckness is actually the end and it's not the middle, right? Maybe the stuckness is actually we're ending something and we don't need to get to the other side of it, because this is the lesson that we're learning. Again, for me, when I think about this, I'm like, oh yeah, this is speaking to my burnout, right? Which is just this idea of like, you have to stop doing this, right? Like you have to stop doing this to yourself, of pushing through things, of just going because you said you would, or because other people are doing it. And that we have to acknowledge, again, like our own journey that we're on and appreciate everything we've accomplished, right? We can look back and be like, good job, self, right? We did it. We made it through hard times. We pushed. And that was like one version of ourselves and how we can get through things, right? But this card is saying like, we have to, right, this like mothering of self, this like crone energy, right, is passing down wisdom to younger generations or other people, right? We are actually becoming that for ourselves in this role, right? We are our own nurturer. We are nourishing our, right, child, our inner child self. and caring for ourselves. And maybe that is what we're learning right now, is like, how can I prepare for that unburdening? By caring for self, right? How can I get to the other side of burnout? By caring for yourself, right? We can't wait until other people do it for us. We have to figure out there's only one of you and you are precious, right? We are important to this world. And in order to do the great things that we see for ourselves and to do, we have to recognize that like our energy, our time, our physical and mental and emotional health are precious, and we have to treat it as such, and that we have a lot to offer this world, but that offering cannot be at the cost of caring for ourselves. We have to acknowledge our own power, right, of our own wise crone within and what we're learning, and in order to, again, kind of end this cycle that we've been in. All right, I'll stop preaching on that right now. Okay, so 2 more cards. Number 5, how can we align with my magical self this season? How can I align with my magical self this season? What do I want? I guess we're just going in order. This is what feels right now. So I'm pulling from the Herb Crafter's Tarot. Oh, there's a different card in here from a different deck. Okay. There we go. The Herb Crafter's Tarot, artwork by Joanna Powell Colbert, written by Letitia Guthrie. And we are pulling on the prompt of how can I align with my magical self this season? Let's see here. I pulled a bunch of cards last time I used this deck. Okay, so we're going to shuffle. How can I align with my magical self this season? One more. Okay. Cut the deck. Flip card. Oh, this is funny. I pulled St. John's wort, which is the sun, but I pulled it in reverse, which feels very appropriate as I look outside and it's literally dreary and not sunny at all. And right, I think like burnout is like literally the other side of the sun. Or right, like burnout would be like the sun stopping to exist, which is a little scary, but right, like literal burning out, right? Because the sun is just a big fireball, a star. Okay, so this deck does not really do reversals, so I'll try to interpret what I think this means other than what I just told you, which is like the upright, the sun is about, right, the light and summer solstice and happiness, vitality, joy, the peak of summer, right? Warding off ill, shine on, celebrate yourself and your successes. So we traditionally harvest St. John's wort, which are small yellow flowers, on summer solstice when they are at their peak. And then generally, if you're an herbalist, you infuse them in oil and they turn this in wild. So the flowers are yellow, but actually a lot of parts of the plants internally are red. So when you infuse them in oil, which can be done in the sun or in the dark, the oil turns like a blood red, which is kind of this magical transformation. So the image here, it says a clear jar of red infused oil encircled by bunches of St. John's wort sits on an indigo dyed cloth. A crown of the blood red oil in vials adorns the top of the bouquet. The bright yellow flowers tumble on a replica of the ancient Mixtec sunstone which hides beneath the green mass. A few flowers have fallen into the jar of oil. Happiness begets happiness, radiate liveliness and vitality. Fully experience the sheer gift of being alive. St. John's wort is best known as a mood-lifting plant, but it also repairs skin from trauma and soothes nerve-related pain. The flower buds emit a rich pigment that yields vibrant red potions. The flowers and buds peak at the height of summer, the most potent time for wild crafting. Make magic and medicine when your joy is in full bloom. Seek vibrant people and healing experiences that build good energy and boost your power. The leaves of St. John's wort shimmer like diamonds when held up to the sun. Step into the light and show your sparkle. So if you want to craft with this, with the sun card, you can keep bright flowers in your home to promote a sense of joy. You can craft oils and elixirs with St. John's wort to invoke the healing powers of light during dark times. And you can wear bright red lipstick and nail polish to celebrate your fabulous self. I'm wearing red nail polish right now, although it's chipping, so I'm probably going to paint them today. I find this hilarious, this card, because I've been using St. John's wort oil topically as a nervine, so it literally calms your nerves as this topical medicinal power. Some people also take it internally for depression, but you just have to be careful, so please consult books, herbalists, and medical professionals before you choose to do that decision, or at least do your research. It can just have impacts, I think, on your liver. What else was I going to say here? Yeah, so there is this sort of like, anyway, so I have St. John's wort oil. I just started using it after I talked to my friend about being in burnout. I actually I use face oils as a cleanser, so to wash my face every day. And generally what I do is in the summer, I use calendula infused oil, and in the winter, I use St. John's wort infused oil as the sort of like mood lifting plant that heals, repairs skin from trauma, and also soothes nerve related pain. And I also just started using it as like kind of a topical oil on my neck, which is where I hold a lot of like stress, tension. You can also put it on your feet or legs if you're on your feet a lot. And it's very funny to me because I've been talking about this plant. I'm using it multiple times a day now, and my friend Doris, the one that I was talking to about burnout and herbalism, brought me a giant jar of more St. John's wort oil for my burnout. Actually, she was like, I have more, and so I have like probably 4 or 5 cups now of oil, which will last me a very long time, all winter certainly. So for me, when it's like, how can I align with my magical self this season? I'm like using this oil that I've literally been using all the time, right? Like this is this magical plant, right? This deck is all about herb crafting and magic. And right, this is just telling me like, yes, and keep doing it. And also, right, that like it is this mood lifting plant. It repairs skin, it soothes nerve related pain, and right, calming our bodies and our nervous system also helps us regulate ourselves and come out of burnout. So it's like very funny to me that it's like you do what you got to do, which is literally use this plant and also like use it as this way to like bring the sun, the vibrancy back into your life. And also, right, maybe finding other ways for me to craft with it. I have other kind of nerve related pain elsewhere, so maybe I'm also going to be putting it on those parts of my body. All right, finally, the final card of the final deck. Which one am I going to do? Oh, we're going to do the Goddess of Love Tarot, of course, by Gabriella Herstick and illustrated by Julia Popescu, also known as Snakes for Hair on Instagram. All right, and our final prompt is Message from Beyond the Veil. So guidance from our ancestors, which is lovely because this is the time of year when the veil is the thinnest. So our ancestors will be particularly chatty and available to us at this time of year. This is, again, kind of the tradition of Samhain, of Halloween, of Day of the Dead. Ancestors, time of year. I feel like people experience a lot of grief and loss at this time of year, or we feel it a lot at this time of year. I pulled the Death card. Oh, irony. Message from Beyond the Veil. And this card in this deck represents Kali, the goddess Kali, so the literal sort of goddess of death. So let's get into that. What is our message here, right? You can probably imagine, but I'll read from the Tarot deck guidebook here. So this is Kali or Chinamasta, astrological correspondence, Scorpio. Hello, Scorpio season that we're in right now. The Death card is one of the most feared of the 22 major arcana cards, and in a culture that suppresses rituals of grief and release, this makes sense. But death points to another paradigm where endings are not dreaded but seen as portals. Right. So I think right now, right, for me, for you, we are in this portal, like we are entering this portal so that we get to come out the other side. Death and rebirth happen not at two instances on opposite ends of a linear cycle, but constantly at once, like the Ouroboros, which is the snake eating its own tail imagery. The mother goddess Kali embodies this energy, the Hindu goddess of death, destruction, the void, rebirth, creation, transformation, and ego death, which was also called out earlier, right, in the Emperor reverse of ego death, sings of non-corporeal existence, of releasing the bonds you have to the material world in the ultimate act of surrender. Only by embracing the inescapability of death can life become full of possibility. In her emanation as Chinamasta, one of the 10 Madhavidas, or wisdom goddesses of Tantric Hindu tradition, Kali becomes the goddess of ego death and guardian of Kundalini, the sexual energy that, when roused, leads to new states of consciousness. Death is an omen of change, rarely a literal death. Instead, it's an ending that makes way for a beginning. Death can feel like a breath of fresh air, the promise of something new on the horizon. Death also means total surrender. Release your resistance to endings and recognize the power in the both at once, death and rebirth. Evolution sometimes comes from a sacrifice so deep that you have no choice but to yell into the abyss and give everything to the goddess without any expectations in return. So the affirmation associated with this card is I surrender to the cosmic cycles of death and rebirth. And the journaling question here is what is coming to an end and what is asking to be rebirthed from this place, right? Again, imagining that, right, death and rebirth actually happen at the same time. It's not that death is the end of a cycle, it's that, or on the linear scale, but that death and creation are the same, and that is what's corresponded with this card. So of course our message from Beyond the Veil would then be, right, is that we are on this precipice, we are going through the portal, it's happening right now, right, and we are perhaps grieving the death of something that was, and we are welcoming in the rebirth of something new. And that evolution comes from a sacrifice so deep that you have no choice but to yell into the abyss and give everything to the goddess without any expectations in return. Oh, what a powerful message for this season, literally. All right, so if you'd like to join me on the journey of using the tarot for transformation, you can click on the link in the show notes to indicate your interest, and I'll send you more info. I'm going to be kicking it off in January 2026. We'll be working together I'll be doing 12 months of calls, 1 call a month, and we'll walk through journaling and archetypes and embodiment practices, color magic, glamour, and all types of things to discover what happens when we want to transform our lives through the tarot. Links for the tarot decks I talk about on all 6 of them today will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. You can email me, me@CamilleASaunders.com with your thoughts, questions, and more. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.